What is something weird about Europe that Europeans don't realize is weird? Germans stare a lot. Like they will just gaze at you unflinchingly. An American will wait until you can't see them doing it. No mesh screens in windows in the UK, at least. In Canada we have screens in most home windows to keep flies out. How quickly you can be in a different country with a completely different language and culture. Paying to go to the bathroom. It's absolutely wild that you have to pay money to use the toilet. Paying for water at a restaurant and honestly just the limited amount of water people drink. I always feel so incredibly dehydrated when I come back from Europe. Paying for public toilets. Absolute madness. I don't care how clean you'll claim they stay. I would rather asterisk in a dirty bathroom than asterisk my pants because I didn't have coins on me. The idea that a long drive, warranting a flight, not going under really any circumstances, etc., is over an hour in the case of vacation or traveling. Not sure how true this is, but the Brits I know say it's common there. In the US drives only get long enough to warrant another mode of transport after about 8 to 9 hours. To an American or Canadian, the idea of becoming a citizen won't make you French, German or Swedish etc. You can live in France your entire life, but because you were born in Syria never be seen as French. Being American or Canadian is an idea. Anyone who even wants to be American will be considered American. Why the asterisk? Does everything close so early? Europeans. I love you. Please give me some asterisk ice. France's border with the Netherlands is in the Caribbean. How common pickpockets are there compared to the rest of the world? Having the light switch outside the bathroom. Germans stare at strangers. It's unsettling. My only experiences in Europe so far have been touring there in a punk band. The thing that blew my mind was how often, almost always, the venues we were playing were literal state-sponsored squats. Like the tire factory, or whatever in town, would go belly up, and a bunch of punks and anarchists would move in, and the local government would just be like, hey, they cleaned up all this broken glass and now there's a whole new crop of people keeping this community alive. Tell you what, let's give them free utilities. On more than one occasion we played a free show, and got a check from some government office. This would never ever, in a million years, take place in the United States. The amount of mosquitoes in Finland, Americans go crazy in spring because of it. France. Saying that racism is an United States thing. I doubt there's a single thing that's common throughout the whole continent. Smoking. I know maybe 2 people who still smoke cigarettes. In Europe it's like Mad Men never left. None of your cities have Super Bowl rings. I mean, are you even asterisk trying over there? No air conditioning. As an American who has spent 1 week in Italy and only 5 weeks outside the southern US, this probably says more about us, but y'all's roads are so damn small, and you'll drive batshit crazy though an 8-foot wide street with 20 people on the side. Hell, most vehicles wear in from cold and fit in there. As a European who has lived in multiple countries, I can say that most of the things posted in here are not universal for all the countries. Europe contains the highest concentration of officially Christian states, nations with official state religion/church, and the lowest per capita percentage of people who actually practice Christianity in the first world, which is to say, nominally claim to be Christian, probably a lower percentage actually believe. I'm from Finland, and one European thing that all Finnish people hate is cheek kisses when greeting. It's mostly Southern European thing but still. There's this saying in Finland that goes everyone has their own safety coffee cup, meaning the closest distance someone should get to you should not be closer than your coffee cup when you're holding it. Lecturing Americans on race then turn around and hoot at black football players or say no, racism against Roma people is justified. I'm Chinese and meeting native-born European Chinese is always weird even compared to American-born Chinese. I can't put my finger on it, but it is just weird, but not in a bad way. It's always baffled me just like how normal it is to just go to another country. Like for me, it's such a big deal and to go to literally any country, but one it's a long plane flight. Europeans can just drive an hour right into another country for a day trip. Also the fact that my country is bigger than all of Europe also baffles me. Whenever I visit Europe, one thing that stands out is the smoking. It's way more popular and accepted there than in the US. And also personal space. WTF is up with the showers. Every hotel I've stayed at in Europe had some weird ass shower. Talking about how Americans are arrogant and think we are superior, and then proceeding to tell us how superior their country is to ours. I never hear Americans talk down about Europe the way Europeans constantly do about Americans. Americans generally have a positive attitude towards Europe and Europeans. I'm also ready for responses to this comment to fall into this exact category. No ice in drinks. You're like lukewarm soda or something. Almost everything in Europe is old, and nobody treats the old buildings as though they are anything special. You go to someone's house, and their house is 700 years old. And all the cottages in the village are that old. See things like buildings that were ancient Roman colosseums, that were turned into medieval palaces, that were turned into modern shopping malls or office buildings. Around where I am, it's rare for a building to be more than 100 years old, and most of them are registered, protected historical sites that can't be altered without a permit. Can't wait to read this BuzzFeed article. Finnish people are silent. Small talk doesn't exist. Their personal space larger than COVID-19 social distancing rules, and it's considered normal. Don't speak unless spoken to, and don't invade other people's personal space. It's seen as a sign of respect. Those Finns who haven't been to abroad or haven't met too many foreigners don't often even recognize this behavior being unusual in the global scale. A reverse statement. It was in Japan 2018 when I learned that taxes included in price tags is a European thing. We wanted to buy something. The first time we asked why we have to pay more than the number on the price tag, they explained taxes aren't included. Like, what is this witchery? When I've gone to many European countries, I've noticed their bathrooms have this musty, wet poo smell. I don't know if it's the plumbing or what, but it's prevalent and most people there don't seem to notice, or at least think it's just the way things are supposed to be. In the US, a bathroom smells like any other room. As a Canadian, I took a trip to Europe in high school for a week, 3 days in London, England, 3 days in Paris, France, 2 days in Madrid, Spain, and 1 day in Toledo, Spain. One thing that really stood out is how different begging for money by the homeless/poor works. Here people will stand in traffic with signs telling a sob story for cash, or will come up to your car window or even in person on the street getting in your face trying to get money from you. Almost every beggar I saw in Europe would just sit still on the ground holding a cup out, not saying a word to anyone, or getting in anyone's business. They would just sit there and wait for someone to come to them and toss some money their way. It gave me a lot of respect for them as I was so used to people literally making your life almost feel threatened here when they are begging for money on the streets, while these people in Europe just sat or stood in place holding a hand out in silence and just hope for help without any aggression or confrontation. They're complacently with obnoxiously public drunks. Here in America we at least hide them in the place they got drunk, or inside a diner, shove them in a taxi/rickshaw and haul their ass home. Having to pay to use public restrooms. Restrooms are widely available and free to use in the US, so it was quite a shock when I had to pay to use a restroom in Europe. Some other things that stood out to me were having to pay for water at restaurants, no screens in the windows, euro notes increasing in size based on denomination, and the lack of cup holders in cars. One of the big ones I noticed was accessibility for wheelchair users. Granted, lots of buildings in Italy are older than the United States itself, But in US it's a law that most all buildings have to be accessible for everyone. It's very subtle if you're not looking for it, but when you start thinking about it, it becomes glaringly obvious. Colonizing most of the world for salt, spices and herbs, and barely using any in their cuisine. How most European countries use the same currency, expect for me mates from the UK. We use tea bags and half-opened crisps as currency. Mayonnaise on French fries, I actually like it now. Sparkling water. The very common hatred of the Roma and their inability to see how it's bigoted. Bit silly asking this question and lumping all Europeans in together. It's not like we all share the same culture. Monarchies. They're creepy, and the reverence is weird. There's so much smoking everywhere.